Good afternoon and welcome to From Where We Are. I'm Taylor Mills, coming to you live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center.
And I'm Brian Sarabia. From Where We Are brings you stories of news and culture through the lens of USC and Southern California. It's Monday, April 25th, 2022.
On today's show, Elon Musk finally makes an offer for Twitter.
LA public transit still requires masks.
And a conversation with Annenberg Media's Krista Lucas.
All that and more after these news headlines.
Shut up. Don't. The cameras, are menacing.
It's 2019. Brink spent the last 3 years as ambassador to Slovakia, and her new appointment comes after two top U.S. officials visited Kiev. Former President Donald Trump was held in contempt of court today for not complying with a New York subpoena. The subpoena comes as a result of the former president failing to hand over documents to the New York Attorney General investigating the Trump Organization. Trump to review new evidence accumulated since her conviction. Those are some of the top stories in the news.
Just days after a federal judge struck down the transportation mask mandate, LA County residents are required to put them back on for public travel. Kylie Warden has more on the story.
Most of the country is now living mask optional, despite CDC guidance. However, in what is being described as mask whiplash, LA County reinstated the face covering mandate on public transit last Friday, going beyond state regulations. If you find yourself on trains, buses, rideshare services, or transportation hubs in LA, Public Health Director Barbara Ferrer says to mask up and acknowledges the confusing back-and-forth rulings. Ferrer says LA is seeing an increase in COVID-19 transmission, and the new subvariant of the virus, dubbed BA2, is to blame, accounting for 84% of local cases. Over 2,000 new cases were reported the day Ferrer made the announcement. The county's average is up by nearly 250 daily infections. And lately, hospitalizations are slightly increasing. For Annenberg Media, I'm Kylie Warden.
If you had $44 billion, what would you buy? Would one of the biggest social media platforms on the planet come to mind? Today, Elon Musk reached an agreement with the board of directors at Twitter to buy and privatize the platform. This could have huge implications on free speech. Zach Gibbs has the story.
Twitter has accepted Elon Musk's $44 billion bid to buy the platform and make it private. His main objective for the social media platform is to improve their free speech policy. In a statement regarding the deal, Musk said, "Free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy, and Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated." Along with a revised free speech policy, Musk wants to make sure that Twitter accounts are owned and used by real humans. Musk said, "I also want to make Twitter better than ever by enhancing the product with new features, making the algorithms open source to increase trust." In a tweet last week, Musk said, "If our Twitter bid succeeds, we will defeat the spam bots or die trying." The company initially offered Musk a spot on the board. However, he backed out because he wanted to own more of the company. In an attempt to foil Musk's plans to buy Twitter, board members plan to offer current shareholders more shares at a discounted price, which is called the poison pill. However, this plan did not stop Musk from making the purchase. Musk looks to finance his purchase by borrowing $25.5 billion from banks like Morgan Stanley and Bank of America, with the other $21 billion coming out of his pocket. For Annenberg Media, I'm Zach Gibbs.
The pandemic has changed a lot of things. Now, one thing that will probably never change is the fact that we all wear clothes. Brian, I'm glad you wore your pants today. We're now talking about how the fashion industry has adapted in the past few years. And in a time where anti-Asian sentiment has only continued to rise, we're looking into how Asian American designers continue to create through the chaos. Julia Lin reports on how COVID-19 has shifted the fashion narrative.
I'm sitting in a park in the middle of downtown Los Angeles as Celeste Tran approaches. She's wearing a pair of nude sparkly pumps, distressed blue pants, and a bright pink plaid halter neck top. Tran is a Southern California native, an artist, and a student at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, or FIDM. Her journey to being a designer starts with her grandmother.
Her career, her whole life, for like 40 to 60 years, was doing professional tailoring on garments. So her workroom was in our house. We had all the sewing machines and rows and bins of like thread and like fabrics, and so I was always in there like messing around, making clothes for Barbie.
Tran found this passion at a young age, but only a small percentage of FIDM students are Asian American, around 10% of the enrolled population. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we're chatting outside and masked in a campus courtyard. The sound of trucks unloading mixed with a children's birthday party happening on the other side of the grassy stretch. Tran and I laugh at the chaos of it all. People walk by in running clothes, ripped jeans, oversized t-shirts. That's to say that everyone is, yes, wearing clothes.
Designing is very human-centric. For designers, a lot of what we do is for people, and so we have to think about how the things that we make will affect people and how they'll think about it and how they'll interact with it, how they'll perceive it.
Tran sees fashion as encompassing the utility of design with the creativity of art and culture.
When I think of fashion design, I think a lot of designers have to be connected to like a specific social cause, or at least wrap up your own identity in what you're bringing, because that's the way you can connect to the people you're creating for.
For Tran, connecting to people is not only tied to being an artist, it's also about her identity as an Asian American. And since the pandemic hit, this has only become more prominent. According to a report by the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism, anti-Asian hate crime increased by 339% last year.
I feel like we're part of a new generation of like more vocal people. And so I think it's important that through our work we like speak loudly.
Finding inspiration from the past to create hope for the future is a theme inspiring a whole generation of Asian American designers. Designer Daisy Wang has felt the impacts of the pandemic in real time.
I remember the start of pandemic when we first started seeing especially like old ladies being like mistreated on the street and all that stuff. For at least like a month, I was terrified of going onto my personal Instagram just because I know that every time when I see something like that, it ruins my day. Like I couldn't honestly focus on anything else.
Wang says this increase in anti-Asian hate crimes has pushed her to bring more active advocacy into her work.
Okay.
Imagining, if my parents were here, if my grandparents were here, what would they have faced? Like, there's no way that I could make sure that they would never, get into these situations. So that really affected me for a while as well.
While the pandemic has introduced some new challenges to the industry, the adversity facing Asian American designers is not entirely new. The fashion world has historically left out marginalized communities, making voices like Tran and Wang even more crucial.
Even though it hits all of us, but as a community, I feel like we're growing tighter, we're growing stronger together. Like throughout these past 2 years, I've met so many amazing Asian entrepreneurs, designers, artists who are literally we're fighting for the same goal.
Okay,
Tran,
if you feel that you want me to
doing
say
the work
more,
and doing it
you can
together.
It affects the way we perceive the world, right? How people see us is based on what we put on our bodies, and so that's super important.
I finish packing up my equipment,
What's
and
this?
as I am leaving the quad, I spot Tran's pink
wrap it
shirt
up?
from all the way down the
Great.
street. It's a hopeful reminder. Her clothes do what she says she is working on. She is seen. For Annenberg Media, I'm Julia Lin.
In the studio with us today is Krissa Lucas, the ACVN producer that broke the story about a custodian at USC who was arrested on campus on suspicion of theft by the LAPD. Custodian Francisca Trigueros is a beloved staff member, and members of the psychology department are now publicly speaking in her defense. Krissa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be with you guys.
So congratulations, by the way. Your reporting has been picked up by publications like the LA Times, NBC, and ABC. This is an example of the hyper-local journalism that comes from Annenberg Media. Why does this kind of reporting matter?
I think that I actually feel that this kind of reporting really matters because although it started from this small community, it started from USC. This is a small community where faculty members were concerned of one of the staff members that was working with them for a really long time. But change usually begins from small changes, small steps. This was one small step towards changing, let's say, the way of approaching matters like these towards different races and different levels. Because we're talking about a custodian, and that was one of the matters. This was a concern from the faculty members. Would I be in the same position as a professor, for example? That was one of the questions that they had.
This headline is also in the context of a broader movement on campus calling for custodians who are employed by Aramark to receive fairer wages and better benefits. Do you think this story matters when looking at that bigger picture?
I think it doesn't matter, absolutely, because Aramark is a very big company. They're everywhere, they have many employees. So when you see there's a protest outside towards that company, you understand that there's certain things that are not happening and they're asking for them, People go and protest only when they feel they have not been heard. It's not like they woke up one day and they decided, you know what, I'm going to go protest about this. No, they've been asking about things. They felt they weren't heard in another way. So that was one of the ways of asking for what they needed and what they felt they deserved, and then in connection to Francisca Trigueros, that's a different issue, but then it is connected, like how does Aramark treat their employees? That's still a question mark because Aramark has not responded to our requests, So yes, I think it is connected.
Yeah. So neither the police nor USC would release the video of Trigueros putting the backpack in the closet, but there is supportive testimony from faculty. How do you think this is going to play out on her court date, July 12th?
That is a very tricky question, and I feel that this is a case that they don't want it to get to the court date. You see what I'm saying? I can imagine that from Trigueros' part, I don't think she wants to go to court about this, and nobody knows yet where exactly they are. I think if it does go to court, then they will have to show the footage, the video. What does it show, and what does it prove intent, which is important for the Court of Justice. And I think from the facts, from what we know until now, it really doesn't show that she would be. At the end of the day, I feel like she would be let go, but that's my personal opinion.
That was Krista Lucas, a producer for ATVN on Tuesdays. Her reporting on Francisca Trigueros' arrest can be found on annenbergmedia.com. And that's all we have time for on today's show. Val Diaz and Guillermo Guerrero produced today's show, and Fernando Cienfuegos runs our soundboard. We also had help from Jason Lopez, Ethan Huang, Jocelyn Stone, Patrick Warren, and thanks to the whole team for the great help all throughout this semester. Derek Renfro composed our theme music.
We are streaming live on KXSC and on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News.
This is our last show.
This
Brian.
is our last show, Team Monday. I am so thankful for this opportunity to be hosting here at Annenberg Radio. And I'm really, really glad because I learned a whole lot of things about, being on air. And I would just like to thank our producers and my amazing co-host, Taylor. She's always helped me through any jam that I had. So thank you so much for being my right-hand man.
We were just talking today about why radio is so important and why we were both drawn to it, and it's because of this intimacy. And I feel really comfortable here with you, Brian, and also with all of our listeners, wherever you are, and also because of the stories that we put together. I mean, such as Krista's reporting, it's been incredible what has come out of this media center and from students of all different backgrounds and ages, and I don't know, it's just truly a feat to see the hyperlocal things that we've learned about. So I've truly been honored to be here. Do you want to
do it for one last time?
Yeah.
I'm Brian Sarabia.
And I'm Taylor Mills. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for
From Where We Are. Woohoo!